Alrighty, so as I discussed last night, I'm going to do this little review video of topics we covered and what you need to do to get ready for our next class. So what we did in classwork is, in these two items, I've left this one to where you can still submit it. On the classwork, we played Kahoot, and I don't have an offering to make that one up, but on the code up you can. And in order to do the code up, you have to create your private repo. And I believe everyone should have an invite to that repo. And if you don't, make sure you fill out my form or contact me. Okay? Because once you get so in order to do this, and it's a relatively simple thing, once you get it set up, here's the setup. So make sure you get the invite to the CIT94. And in order to do that, you have to have a GitHub account. You log in, you should get an invite, and then that invite, it'll add you to the organization. Then you can come over here and you should see in your listing CIT94. And then what you're gonna want to do from here is to create a new repo. So you can see, matter of fact, everyone's repo is available for view here. So you can see those, but here's the basic setup. You do a new repo. Okay, you give it a name. I generally suggested last night that we give it our usernames, right? So I'm not going to do another one, but if I was to do one, because that's my username, but notice I can't because it's already used. So just as a, I'll create that. But again, I didn't dictate that. Okay, so then it would be your name, right? And CIT94 course repo. Now we've all decided that they will be public repos within our organization. You're also going to want to initialize a git ignore, and this is so that files on your local repo that are added get ignored because they're not files you want to version control. And last night, and this actually speaks to making sure that you have selected your editor, which most of you had. I ended up using Visual Studio for my git ignore setup, but then I modified it. So just to do the same thing. And then you do want to initialize a README file. Okay? So once you do those things, it sets up your repo. And then what you can do is modify your git ignore file. And it's pretty simple. Again, I'm not going to set up another one. You would do this and it would create your repo. Okay, so I'm going to go back just to show you once you do that step what it looks like. Then you'll see in here your repo. So my git ignore, once you set it up, okay, what you're going to do here is you can go in and you can actually look at anybody's in the class who did the setup I had, and you can just copy that, and then when you go to your repo you can just hit edit the file and paste that in. The only thing you'll have to do is make sure you do a commit message, because anytime you modify a file you have to do a commit message. Okay, so once you've done that, now it's time to actually clone that repo into your local. So what you want to do here is go to the repo itself, okay, copy this, make sure it's on clone HTTP, copy that, and this is where you need to verify you have git installed. Now for me, I showed that I use my editor VS Code to do this. I'm just going to open up a terminal within my VS Code, an integrated terminal. And then I believe you can just do git. I think this is right. Let me see if this is right. Yeah. So how do you know you have git installed? You have that. And then you should show a version. Mine might be a little older than the current, but as long as you have git installed, you're fine. Also, if you're using VS Code as on the PC, when you install GitHub on your system, you have an option to use git bash, and I think that's the best way to go. And the reason I point it here is that make sure your editor knows which one you're using, so when you're using the terminal it works fine. Okay, so then what I suggested last night students do, now ls is just a command to show your current directory. I had them go into whatever directory they were going to use. It's a little out of the screen, so let me bring my editor up a little bit. And then I had them mk. Now this is the command line equivalent of making a directory, and I'm just going to call it Rio Waller 123, right? Actually, no, I'm sorry. First directory I had to create was CIT94 SP18, so that indicates this semester you're taking it. Now I already have that directory, but just clear this out. So I would just change to CIT94 SP18. And then here, now this is the place now you're going to clone. So here's the command git clone. And now remember when I pasted that a minute ago? Right, you're going to want to clone this. And what this will do, and now I'm not going to do the command because you can see by it listed it's already here, is I would then clone that into my local system. Okay, and if you get errors here, you'll just have to make sure you pay attention to the errors and take any action or do any research or reach out if you need help. But once you do that command, so there's three parts. There's git space clone, and then paste in the URL HTTPS reference. So once you do that, then you have your, and now I'm in my repo. And how do I know I'm in a repo? Matter of fact, let me show you this. In here, if I did, and this is a very common, git status, it's going to say there's no repo, and that's because I'm not in the repo directory. So if I do a git status in here, then I see it. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is actually modify a file. Right now, and before I do that, I'm actually going to open now in my editor that folder because I've been working in my integrated terminal. So I'm just going to open that folder. And then what I showed students last night was first thing I do is I modified, just to make sure everything was hooked up, I modified my README file to include my name and the editor I'm using. So as an example, let me just add test here, right? So just to show you. So what I can do here now is, oh, sorry. When we were doing this the first time, I hadn't done a branch. So let me make sure I'm on the correct branch right now. I'm actually on master because in a second I'll show you how to use branches to do weekly work. So now let me see. I can actually see from VS Code that I do have a change. I can also do that, and I'm going to up arrow git status, and I do see that I modified. So I'd have to stage, right? So you modify your code, you stage it, and you commit it, and then when you're ready, you push it to GitHub. Okay, so that's the command you want to go through. That's the process, the workflow that we described last night. Okay. So that, so in this case, I'm going to show you, last night we talked about, okay, let me just do it. So in this case, I could do git add, and if I knew the file, I could actually just say readme.md, or if I knew I only had one file, right, I could just do star to do that, and it would just add it. So now if I do, and by the way, learn your up arrows here. Cool. I have now a file that's staged and it's ready to be committed. So git commit -m open quote updating read me.md, and md is a markdown file. Cool. So now I've actually done the commit, and now I'm ready to push that code into GitHub and actually update it out on the web. So the command here is git push. Now, you may get some error here or not, so just pay attention to errors, and again, reach out for help when you need them. Once you do this step, then it will place that code out on there. I'm not going to do it for reasons those of you that were in class last night may remember. Okay, so that was just a simple change that we did to set up your repo. And now what you want to do is now you're ready to actually work on the code up. And the code up was very simple last night. I just had you all do this first challenge. So if you didn't get it done, I'm going to this is probably one of the few times I'll extend stuff like this, but you need to declare, initialize, and assign a string, numeric, and Boolean value and output the results to console log. Now, last night in class we did this, and by the way, before you do the code, because all the stuff in class or whatever, I'll have you do a new branch. Okay, and so now I've already created my branch, but the actual command, let me just show you, is git branch, and then the name of the branch. So day one was our day one branch. Now I'd already created mine, but when you do that, and I'm going to show you the way I actually do this is in VS Code just switch to day one. Now notice what happens is 2 new files show up because these are the files that we actually did last night. Okay, Okay, so then you create this print screen is the one you can't make up, but you can do the variables. And again, do this on your own. Just see, it's a challenge to see how well you know JavaScript, and how, if you don't, then it's time, and we talked about this quite a bit last night, to level up. So on this day one branch, once you modify, update some code, then you'll do the same process, right? Which is you modify code, you stage code, git, add, and either the file name of that, right? Or the wildcard, and then you git commit -m, and then a message, right? And then when you're done with that and you got everything to go, you can do git push. On our next class, I'll walk through how to do this stuff in the editor itself, especially in VS Code, because it's really nicely laid out. Okay, now let's just talk about for a minute here, because I know this is going a little longer, but at least it gives an overview. So next week, before class, you need to have coded up on the Udemy course, lecture 8 through 15. And you're going to create a new branch for this. And FYI, when you're working on branches, you need to make sure you commit your code before you switch the branch. Okay? So right now I'm good. So I actually could do this. So actually, let me show you. So if I was to start working on in this repo the work, because we're going to be using this branch to do all the work for this section. Okay, so this is not a day 2 yet. You'll do that. You will do that for what we do in class. Sorry. So let me show you this just to be clear. So we'll create for classwork. We'll create a day 2 branch for that work. But this work is due before you get to class. And by the way, FYI, I've said I will hold my office hour in the lab from 5 to 6. So the hour before our class, I will be in there hanging out if anyone needs extra help. Okay? So just to complete here, you will create your new branch. So let me just do that. Now I'll show you the other way in VS Code that's really fun to do this. So I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to call it Node. Now I give you 2 ways. You can either call it Notes or you can call it Node Notes, whichever one you want. So now I have a new branch. Okay? So now I'm on a new, actually, I'm so glad I saw this. Actually, what you'd want to do is go back to the master, and then from the master create your new branch. I'm glad I saw that, because what was happening there is I was branching from my day 1. Now, why do you not want to do that? Because it's going to take all the stuff that you did for day 1 and bring it into your new branch, and that's not what you want. Okay? So in this case, what I would do, and let me see if I can fix it. If not, I'll just delete it later. From here, right? I'm gonna, oh yeah, I don't think it will. Okay, so that's good. I'll fix that, and that'll be something we could talk about. So make sure when you do this, you go back to the master, and then either do it at the command line, git checkout, and then you could do node notes, or you can do node. And he in the video he talks about, I think he uses node notes, right? So sorry, not checkout. What's the command? What's the command to create a new branch? Oh, I can do it here because I think I created, let me just see, I created node notes. So let me do it. So now I'll do it from the master. I'll just call it notes. Okay. My bad. Okay. Oh, how about git branch notes? Nodes. It's okay. Works too, right? So now the reason I wanted to do that, and I could now git checkout notes, and it should be right. And now ls, what's cool here now is I have a blank, there's nothing in here because I'm on a branch that was branched from the master. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm almost reviewing for next class. That's great. Okay, last thing. Lots to go, lots to go. So in classwork, I've given you a list of some of the things I'm going to be talking about. You don't have to do a lot of, you don't have to watch every one, but I think just doing a skim of this stuff is really good. We will have something at the end of class that covers some of the topics here and some other things that we'll go over. And then I've also given you a link to Backend Developer. Okay, hope that helps you out. Talk to you later. Bye.